everyone, and welcome to Never Seen It. This is a podcast about movies we haven't seen. I'm your host today. My name is Betsy, and I'm here with Trent.
Hello, Betsy.
Trent, it is May 2026, and today is a momentous occasion here on the podcast because we are doing Movie 400. And I would argue that for this month's theme, Big Movie May, which you have dubbed Biggest Movie May, we are about to cover the biggest movie that we have ever done in 5 years of this podcast.
I think inarguably it is the biggest movie that I am finally crossing off of my never seen list.
It is also the movie that will either welcome us both into the open, awaiting arms of film fans everywhere, or finally get us canceled. Because today, we are watching The Godfather. Now, Trent, I have seen this movie exactly one time, and it was sometime when I was in college. So we're talking like 20 years ago, probably 20 plus years ago at this point. I have never watched it since. You today will be watching The Godfather for the very first time.
Certifiably, I have never seen the entirety of The Godfather. I haven't even started The Godfather. I haven't been in a room where people are watching The Godfather. But I will confess, I've seen a lot of Simpsons, and they have parodied the ever-loving shit out of the original Godfather, and I'm sure all of the Godfather movies.
So you've basically seen the entirety of The Godfather,
There's a
but
running
as
joke.
interpreted
Yes,
by The Simpsons.
There's a running joke in the Simpsons writer's room where, you know, if we stitch together all of the different references to The Godfather that they have included in Simpsons episodes, it's basically the entirety of the movie. So that's my cheat. I know something about it because I watched The Simpsons.
Trent, this movie is turning 54 years old this year. It has been around much longer than your entire life. It is well known as one of the greatest, if not the greatest movie of all time. It is inescapable. It is inescapable. You could not possibly go through your entire life without knowing some things about The Godfather.
And I really cannot call myself a film fan or even a film buff without watching the original Godfather. So here we are.
So Trent, the age-old question for this podcast, tell us what you know, or what you think you know, about The Godfather.
For this, the 400th episode. Hey, that's a reference. That's a reference to the movie that I know. So The Godfather. It is about the Italian mob that come to America after World War II. Marlon Brando plays the Don, which is, I guess, the head of the mafia. And I think his son is played by Al Pacino.
Do you know the name of the family?
The Corleone family.
All right, good. You're not completely oblivious.
Yeah. And I think as we actually watch the movie, I'm going to be validated, I hope, and at least in my own mind, that, oh shit, I actually know things about the movie. Because other than that, Betsy, I don't really know what happens in the movie. I know there's a wedding, and I know it's his daughter's wedding, and I know there's a betrayal, and his name is Fredo, and there's a lot of different things that I have picked up through other media. And guys, I'm just kind of vamping here because I don't know much else about the plot, who else is in the movie. I'm sure I know more than what I'm letting on here, but specifically relating to this one movie, The Godfather, not part 2, not part 3, I don't know what else I know.
At this point, I feel like it's two things. One, you're actively avoiding things because you know someday you'll watch the movie.
Yep.
And two, because it is so prevalent in social media, it's really hard to make a distinction out of context. What is from the first one, the second one, and the third one?
Yeah. Because I could pull out that moment where Al Pacino was saying something about, I thought I was out and then they pull me back in. I don't know which movie that's from. I think it's 3. I could be wrong.
Well, this is where I have to jump in. So I have seen, as I said, The Godfather once. Now, I want everybody to take a deep breath before I say this. When I watched this in my early 20s, I did not enjoy The Godfather, okay? So calm down. I know you're freaking out there. It is possible for someone to watch this movie and not love it.
Now, I will defend you a little bit here, Betsy. You said the same thing about Blade Runner.
Yes.
The first time you ever watched Blade Runner, we covered Blade Runner for this show, and upon second watch, when you're a much more mature adult, you appreciated it even more.
Yes, I have been wanting to give The Godfather a second chance basically for 20 years, because the more that time passes, the more people are endearing this as one of the, if not the greatest movie of all time.
Sure.
So I feel like, okay, I need to understand that. And when I was in my early 20s, I'm discovering the kinds of movies I like and the kinds of movies I don't like. And doing 400 movies on this podcast, plus another 100 or whatever we've done on Patreon, we have covered a lot of ground. And the way I watch movies and the way I experience movies is completely different than it was the first time I watched The Godfather.
And we are forever changed from these 400 movies that we have done for this show.
Absolutely.
I can't watch movies in the same way.
We really can't. So that's kind of what I'm hoping to get out of today's experience is, am I going to be the person who gets canceled because I hate The Godfather?
God, I hope not.
I hope not. I truly hope not. Or am I going to have the experience I did with Blade Runner where it's like, okay, I appreciate the parts of it, I understand its importance, and I can, respect it? Or am I going to tip the scales all the way and go, The Godfather's the fucking greatest movie of all time? I don't know what to expect from this experience because I have lived with that negative thought in my head for so long that I'm like, am I going to be that guy? I don't know, Trent. I don't know what's about to happen.
And just to be fair to both of us here, this is going to be my first and Betsy's second watch. The people who actually say that The Godfather is the greatest movie of all time, I believe you. I wholeheartedly believe that you believe that that is a fact. But those people have watched it multiple times. There's no way that I'm going to come out of this saying that it is the greatest movie of all time because really in my own mind, that title belongs to Children of Men. It's going to take a lot to have that movie topple off the peak of the mountain. But as we do for all of our movies, I am coming at this with a completely open mind. I am extremely excited to watch it for the first time. So Betsy, I think it's time.
All right, well, hold on to your hats, everybody, because we are going to take a break. We're going to watch The Godfather, and we will be right back. And we are back. Trent, you have now been baptized in the Church of the Godfather. Do you accept this movie as the movie above all other movies?
Oh, God. I don't think that I can accept that. That is quite the question you were asking me.
Maybe too big a question.
Yeah.
So let's simplify it. What did you think of The Godfather?
Oh, boy. Now, just to put it out there, this being the one and only time I've ever seen this movie, and the fact that there is so much content out there about The Godfather, about the background, about the making of, about just everything. There's no way we're going to do this movie justice just between the two of us here. So just putting that out there first of all. Anyway, The Godfather. Yeah, that was really good. I can't say anything other than that.
In the most simple terms,
Yeah.
you liked The Godfather.
I liked it quite a bit. And I mean, obviously we're going to get into it here, but my initial reaction is, yeah, I can see why. I can see why people really put this movie up on a pedestal just from its storytelling perspective and a lot of the really modern ways of shooting scenes, the acting choices, the actors themselves, how they're reacting to things, and just how everybody feels so goddamn natural in their roles here. Which is maybe why so many of these guys were cast in very, very similar roles later in their career. Because anybody who saw The Godfather and wanted to make their own kind of Godfather, they look at Al Pacino, they look at everybody else in this movie, and they want their own. They want a piece of what The Godfather was.
It is and forever will be the ultimate mob movie. You will never, ever, ever make a movie like The Godfather, because all they're going to say is, you're trying to rip off The Godfather, and that's not acceptable.
And many of them have, I'm sure.
The ones that are successful are the ones that do it their own way. The reason Goodfellas gets to exist is because that is not trying to be The Godfather.
Yeah, it's its own thing. But as I mentioned in the intro, I have seen The Godfather referenced in so many other fictions, other media, whatever you want to say. And to be honest, other than the shot-for-shot remake of when the Don got shot buying fruit in Analyze This, I don't think I can really pinpoint anything out of this movie that I have seen in its entirety outside of watching the actual movie. Does that make sense?
Like, there isn't anything that stood out where you're like, I know I have seen this before.
Yeah, or like I've seen an entire sequence or scene or anything, really.
It's moments, because the thing that most people take away are, I'll make him an offer he can't refuse.
Yeah.
Like that tiny
Leave
little
the
moment.
gun, take the cannoli.
Yeah.
All the famous lines that come out of
Monday,
the movie.
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
That I did not know. But the only scenes that I would say that I have seen are the ones with Marlon Brando, because he is so iconic in this role. Now, have I seen the entirety of the scenes in context? Absolutely not. So, considering how old this movie is and how old I am and how many movies I have actually seen, I think I saw The Godfather in as pure of a form that I could have possibly done. So, that's my perspective. I want to know where you're coming from here because, again, you've only ever seen the movie once. It's been a very long time ago. This movie is a complete sausage fest as far as I'm concerned. So, how are you feeling about this?
I liked it better than the first time I watched it.
All right. End of episode.
End of episode, because if I elaborate, I'll be disowned by the community. Okay, so I still don't love this movie. But I'm gonna tell you, I'll be spending probably the next 2 weeks seeking out podcasts from people I respect that I haven't listened to where they're talking about The Godfather.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I can't really listen to this and understand and appreciate it from other perspectives, not having seen the movie. So if I take the time to learn more about this movie, digest the movie, I certainly respect The Godfather. But as a movie that's kind of in thirds, in the first part of the movie, I was really engaged. In the second part, I'm like, okay, this is still kind of interesting. But by the third part, I'm like, you're losing me here. It was losing steam. I was kind of getting bored with the movie. And it's not until the final act where Michael's like, the dark Michael rises and he just fucks up everybody, where I'm like, okay, I'm back in.
I think if there is a weakness to the movie, it is its pacing, because it is very, very, very slow at the beginning, and maybe that is intentional here, but by the end, you are jumping multiple years at a time here in the timeline of this entire story. So it is a little jarring to see, okay, Michael comes back and he says outright, I've been back for about a year, maybe a little bit longer. He gets back with his ex. Then we jump again, and it's been like 2, 3, 4 years because he's got a little one who's already walking. So yeah, the pacing and the time jumps and the timeline, I think, is the weakest part of the movie. But as far as being engaged with it, you say that the first part that is pretty slow, that got your attention more. Why do you think that is?
I don't know. Maybe it's just because it was so compact. Because the first part of the movie is all in that one day.
It's basically just that wedding, yeah.
We are at that wedding for like half an hour, 40 minutes. It's a long chunk of the first part of the movie. And it's very good at setting up exactly who everybody is, how they relate to each other. We get introduced to all of the different people and really get a taste of their dynamic. And then who they are as characters. We find out right away that Sonny's a hothead. Like, he grabs the photographer's camera and smashes it in the ground and then throws some money at him. That's in the first few minutes of the movie.
Yeah.
We get a sense of who Robert Duvall's character is. He is a much calmer presence. He is a counselor. He's a lawyer. He is never going to have any big emotions. He is just there to advise them. We get a sense of who Michael is. He is the guy who shows up last. He is the youngest, but they are not moving on at this wedding without him being there. Dad's like, we're not taking family photos until the whole families are here.
Sure, but Michael also says to his girlfriend at the time, all the stuff that you've heard about the family and this story that I'm telling you about what my family has done, that's my family. That's not me. I'm not involved in any of that stuff. And to a point, I think the family doesn't want him to be involved because everybody's already involved. You don't need another one in there. There's enough in the line of succession, as it were, to keep the family rolling.
And there's a moment near the end where Don Corleone says to him, I didn't want it to be you. I didn't want all of this responsibility and all of the string pulling to be up to you. I wanted you to be Senator Corleone, Governor Corleone. He wanted his youngest son to have nothing to do with the family and be completely legitimate. And the strength of the movie is that we set it all up at the beginning. Michael is the youngest son. He's a war hero. He is not a part of this. He is happy. He is engaged in life. He is not even aware of what's going on with the family, all the way to the transformation of who the fuck is this guy at the end of the movie?
Right.
Because it is a fucking wild turn he takes from the first part to the last part of the movie.
And considering all the things that happened to him along that timeline, you can really see how he goes from that, and really all he's trying to do is be a good son. He doesn't want to get involved in the actual crime portion of it. When he goes to the hospital to visit his dad, he notices things because he's been around his family. He's been around his brothers. He knows what needs to happen here. He knows what kind of business his father is running.
He also knows who's supposed to be there right now.
Of course, that's what I mean. But when the baker shows up to pay his respects, he tries to protect him, but also get him involved a little bit by, posing out in front saying, put your collar up and put your hand inside your coat to make it look like you got a gun and you're there standing guard. Because nobody else driving by knows who the guards are. They don't know who these people are. And Michael is kind of thrown into it when he discovers the crooked cops on the beat that are on the payroll of the other crime family. Which, by the way, that police captain that beat up Michael, I don't remember what his title is in the movie, but he's the crazy, general in Dr. Strangelove who orders the bombs to be dropped.
Oh, yeah. All of these guys traveled in so many similar circles. Coppola and Kubrick and George Lucas and all of these dudes making movies in the 70s.
They all share actors.
I pointed out a guy at the end of the movie who's also in Rocky, and he's also in Taxi Driver.
Yeah. But going back to Michael here, after he gets beat up and he's in the room where everybody's kind of scheming as to how to respond to the attack that was going to happen at the hospital, I think this scene right here is the big turn for the Michael character, because when he sits down in that chair, he's just kind of staring off into the middle distance and just rattling off this entire just scheme that he came up with by himself. Let's set up a meeting. Let's make sure it's going to be these two guys. Let's make sure that it is going to be in a public place where people can feel safe. But also, let's surreptitiously plant a gun in the bathroom, so during dinner, I'll excuse myself. I'll ask permission to excuse myself. I'll go to the bathroom, get the gun, and come out guns blazing. While he is describing this entire scenario, he is just kind of dead-eyed, staring into the middle distance, like I said. He is becoming who he is going to become.
Yeah, when he's at the hospital and he realizes there's about to be an attack on his father because nobody is working in the hospital and all of the guards are gone and all of the cops are gone. And he asks that nurse to help him move his father because there's going to be an attempt on his life. He looks at his father and he says, I'm with you, Pop.
Yeah.
He doesn't mean I'm present with you. You're not alone at the hospital anymore. He means I'm fucking in. I'm done playing it safe. I'm done sitting on the sidelines. I am in whatever you need because this will not stand.
Yeah.
But yeah, he has that moment that you were describing and it's like, Jesus, Michael, where the hell did this come from?
And I think everybody else in there is reacting in the same way. James Caan goes up to him and just kind of pats him on the head saying, that's okay. I don't want you involved here, little brother.
But then there's kind of a training sequence after this because everybody who's in the business and has been and knows how this shit goes down, they have to repeat it to him so many times. And they keep saying, are you sure? Did you bring your sack lunch, buddy? Did you tie your shoelaces? Did you bring your spare change? Like, are you ready to go, little guy? Like, they keep repeating it like he wasn't listening.
Right.
Drop the gun. Did they tell you to drop the gun? Make sure to drop the gun.
And as long as we're talking about the lead up to this scene here, let's just talk about the dinner scene. I think it was tense enough. Just with all the heavy air in that building, what they're there to talk about, and you also know what he is there to do, or at least that's the plan anyway.
We know, but they don't know.
Right. But it just gets that much more intense because you also know as the audience, you don't know what they're talking about. You don't know what the guy across from Michael is saying because he's talking in Italian and it is not subtitled. So if you don't know Italian, you don't know what the fuck they're saying.
You're catching certain words like padre. Most people know what that word means. Business.
Yeah.
But yeah, we thought the subtitles were broken because I knew there were parts that were in Italian and this part had no subtitles. So I'm like, is it broken? What's going on? No, it's just not there. It's not supposed to be there. And you are supposed to be confused along with everybody else.
And that right there is what makes the rest of this scene that much more intense. Because when he does go to the bathroom, Michael gets stopped and frisked again. He puts his hand all the way up his crotch.
All the way up there.
He goes in there. He's futzing around looking for the gun for a lot longer than what I expected.
It makes you worry for just long enough the gun isn't there because they said we need a reliable guy and they didn't have a lot of time to plant that gun.
You're right.
And just because you assured him it would be there doesn't mean it is there.
But eventually he does find it. He brings it down with him. And in the background here, try to confirm if I'm right here. When he's bringing down the gun, you can hear kind of in the background, there's a train rolling, like the subway train is right nearby, and it's pretty loud. The train, I feel like, this is only in my mind here. The train sounds are representing the turmoil that Michael is really going through here. Because his mind is just echoing. There's so much happening in his mind right now. I don't think that he is for sure going to go through with it.
This is the crossroads. He knows that once he commits to this, he's in and there's no turning back. Like, he has to leave the fucking country if he goes through with this.
Right, and he goes all the way over to the table, sits back down, and there's that train again. Again, I feel like he is questioning whether or not he is going to go through with it.
I think it's a twofold thing. The first one is that because the first time you hear it, he's in the bathroom, he gets the gun, and he pauses for a minute. He kind of brushes his hair and puts himself together.
That's the moment. That's the moment, exactly.
But it also has another purpose because it's going to cover the sound of the gunshot.
True.
By waiting just a little longer when he gets back to the table, it masks the sound of the gunshot to anybody who's out on the street. The people in the restaurant are going to hear it, obviously.
Of course.
They looked him right in the fucking face.
Well, then the guy also says, well, I made sure to get extra loud rounds to make sure that everybody in that restaurant is afraid.
Yeah, but I do think that that is an intentional choice. And they do it a few times in the movie where they are really using either the absence of sound and then they amp up something like a train, or the music is really building up the tension. They're really good at doing both in the editing.
But of course, Betsy, I didn't know he was actually going to go through with it. I figured, yeah, he was, but considering what everything was leading up to here and what he was eventually going to do, I figured he was going to eventually take over the business.
You live in the future. It's really hard to not know that he becomes the Don of this family.
Yeah, and not knowing all of the different beats of the movie, obviously I'm at a disadvantage. I haven't seen the movie yet, so I was surprised in a lot of different moments here where shit really did pop off. Not only is it that scene, but we know that Paulie, the guy who was supposed to be the Don's bodyguard who called in sick that day, they bring him out to this gorgeous, gorgeous scene where they're in New Jersey. You can see in the background the Statue of Liberty just kind of poking out from all the vegetation, the foliage there. That was maybe the greatest shot in the entire movie.
Well, especially when the guy gets out to take a piss and then you just see the hand with the gun in the window frame right before he kills Paulie.
Just pop, pop.
Yeah, it's a beautiful shot. There's freedom in America, the Statue of Liberty. And then there's a guy with a cannoli.
Yeah. And I think, Betsy, the one that surprised me the most is when Sonny goes to the toll booth and he is gunned down just, wow.
He's like obliterated.
A lot.
Yeah. To the point where they're like, to the Undertaker. Also, that's the guy from the beginning of the movie, I think, which is why he calls him the Undertaker, which I didn't understand at the beginning of the movie, but makes sense later.
Yeah.
But yeah, he tells him, I don't want my wife to see her son like this. He's so fucked up. We're going to use all of your talents, all of your skills, anything you have to do to make this body look presentable.
Look how they massacred my boy.
You've heard that before, I bet.
I have, yes.
I've heard that as a meme in a lot of things. Like when Sonic the Hedgehog first dropped and we saw that horrible, horrible image, people would say things like, look how they massacred my boy. It's a perfect joke, frankly. But yeah, that's a really surprising moment where he has already fucked up his brother-in-law on the street in broad daylight. Like, you don't fucking touch my sister. If you do it again, I'll kill you. And then we see him do it again.
Horribly.
It's even worse.
Oh my God. That scene where Talia Shire is going around that apartment, smashing plates, and they're arguing back and forth, and she gets a knife, and yeah, this guy completely gets what is coming to him eventually. But it's a big fake out here because Sonny gets the news that his sister, everybody's sister here, gets attacked, and you don't know if she's alive or not. No, at that moment when Sonny's going off, you don't know if she's alive or not.
The way they transition, again, a great edit in the movie. It goes from the sound of her screaming, being attacked, to the baby crying.
Yeah.
And yes, Sonny, as I said, is a fucking hothead, and he already thought he dealt with this once, and now he's going to have to go deal with it again. Gets in the car, no protection, nobody's with him, and the guys who follow him take just enough time to get into the car that there's nothing they can do. And even if they had been right behind him, there still wouldn't have been anything they could do.
They would have been killed too.
They would have all been dead too. But yeah, this guy, this brother-in-law, did this at the behest of another one of the Dons in the circle. And we just don't know who it is. And Michael plays the fucking long game. Like, you really thought that not only could you beat my sister, that you could be a part of this family in the business, and we know you're responsible for my brother, that you were just going to live a happy little life?
Even the Don himself said, you know, it's okay that she's marrying this guy, but it's not okay to bring him into the business. You know, give him an income, get him a job somewhere, help him out so that he can help out my daughter, but he cannot have a whiff of what we are actually doing here.
But this is one of those things where you realize just how much Michael and the family love to fucking set up the dominoes and toy with people before they pull the rug out. Like, they are suspicious of everybody, and rightfully so.
Sure.
And this guy has been given a job, and he's been let in on the secrets. And even at the end, when Michael confronts him, he just says, oh, something came up. We can't go. We can't go to Vegas. You come with me. We'll figure this out. And he sits him down and he's like, I fucking know what you did. Don't lie to me. Don't insult my intelligence. But you know what? I'm not going to make my sister a widow. I'm the godfather of your son, pats him on the knee and says, you're out of the business, but we're going to send you to Vegas and you're going to stay away from the business of my sister.
And by the way, who put you up to this? Which mob boss put you up to this? And we'll call it even.
And before you answer, just know that they're all dead. I killed them all today.
Exactly. I just need confirmation, let's say.
Yeah. And then he sends him into the car and everything's gonna be great. Just kidding. A guy's gonna bring out the fucking piano wire and strangle you to death.
Betsy, I would just like to point out here all of the very, very up close and personal violence that occurs to all of these men who die.
For these guys who keep saying it's business, the deaths are extremely personal.
Yeah. And you know, of course, this is a mob movie. This is a crime movie. Of course, there is going to be a lot of violence that happens here. To be honest, I kind of figured there was going to be more. But of course, this being the 1970s, movie makers have a lot more leeway in order to show like blood and violence and just the real ways that people were offed back in the day. Not only do you have the handguns and the Tommy guns, but like you said, you get really up close and personal with the piano wire. And when that really big guy is trying to get some information from the other family, he gets stabbed in the hand and the guy comes up behind him. And that one is, I think, the most violent other than, you know, Sonny getting gunned down.
It's because they linger on it.
Yeah, you see all of his face here. It is like swollen already. And yeah, it was gnarly.
You watch the whole thing just to really sell that these guys are not fucking around. And that's something with the pacing. Like, so much of this is because all the families are at war with each other, or specifically these two families are at war with each other because Sonny and Tom know that we're into gambling and we're into the union stuff. But we also know that drugs are on the rise. And if we don't get in on the ground floor, somebody else is going to, and then they're going to usurp us. They're going to take over and we're going to be shut out. So we got to get in on the ground floor of drugs, and this is the guy who can do it. But because they reject his offer, he starts shit up. And so much of the movie from that point until right beyond Sonny getting gunned down is all this chapter of the movie where we are just at war with each other. Mm-hmm. And it extends all the way the fuck to Sicily where they have tracked Michael down and they blow up his wife.
Jesus Christ. Yeah. Betsy, I was wondering if there was going to be a car bomb anywhere in this movie or not. And sure enough, there is. And I'm really curious now, is this the first one of those where you turn the crank on the car and the car blows up? Is that the first one ever depicted in a movie?
I don't think so. I'm remembering a movie. It's not actually a movie I've seen. It is a cutscene in the third Austin Powers movie of an old Michael Caine movie from the 60s, I think, where a car blows up.
Okay, that is a stretch.
I'm sorry, it's really specific. I know it's a thing that exists.
Okay, fine.
So I don't think it's the first one.
All right, fine.
I'm sorry to dig deep on that reference.
Did not expect an Austin Powers reference in our Godfather episode, guys.
You never know what you're going to get with The Godfather because, like you said in the intro, this movie has been referenced, parodied, mimicked. It's just so many times we have taken this source material and reinterpreted it. So it's impossible to even remember, oh, that thing I know actually came from The Godfather.
Well, and since you said that, I talked about in the intro that I had seen a whole lot of different Simpsons episodes where they had referenced The Godfather and things like that. To be honest, I didn't really get a whole lot of those except for, you know, the horse head in the bed. They do that. Believe it or not, they do that to Lisa when she wants a pony.
Isn't it her toy or something? No, the decapitated toy?
No. Lisa wants a pony. Homer gets it for her, and he puts the pony in her bed. She wakes up next to it. She screams, and then everything is okay. She rides it down the stairs or something. It's really good. But no, I didn't get really any other reference from The Simpsons in this movie, watching it all the way through for the first time. Now, eventually, yes, I will have to look up all the different references in this movie that they do, but that's for another time.
Well, I'm sure many compilations exist out there, so you will have that to check on. But for now, Trent, let's take a break. We have many, many more things to talk about with The Godfather, but we're going to take a word from our sponsor, and then we will be right back.
Critics everywhere are raving about patreon.com/neverseenitpod. Superfan Stephanie says, all this for $5 a month? Incredible. Phineas Butterfield of the New England Journal of Medicine calls it available content. Betsy's grandma says, what's a podcast? Don't miss your chance to experience this phenomenon. Join today.
So we've been talking about a lot of different moments and things in the movie, but let's really focus in on some of the actors because this is one of the most stacked casts in cinema history, which is of course funny because in 1972, they weren't particularly famous. So let's start with Al Pacino, just simply because we've talked about him a lot already. What did you think of him as Michael Corleone in this movie?
Well, he certainly has an arc, Betsy. He can't say he doesn't. Just in the past couple of years, Betsy, we have been going back and watching a whole lot of Al Pacino's movies from the 1970s.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of his movies just in totality on the show. One more to add to the list here.
I know. And we have also said that Al Pacino is probably the most prominent actor we have covered on this show in these 400 episodes.
But we have not spent a ton of time in the 70s. And this is to date the earliest performance of his that we've done.
Yeah. And I mentioned when we did our Dog Day Afternoon episode last year, I said that might be the greatest acting performance I have ever seen in my life, and I stand by that. Honestly, it just made me want to go back and watch a whole lot more Al Pacino from the 70s and 80s. And here we go. This is his big breakout moment here in 1972. He goes from being the youngest son of a very powerful man all the way to replacing his father in that same position.
When he never expected to, and no one in the family expected him to.
And I would say he didn't even want it.
No, there is definitely a conscious choice he makes at a certain point where he goes, I can't be on the sidelines anymore. I don't think he expected to be in charge, but he also knows his own brothers, and he knows there's not really another viable choice here.
Also, I would say that the father also knows his sons, and Michael is probably the best choice if you're going to make a choice.
Oh,
but
he's also obviously his dad's favorite.
Oh, sure.
Obviously.
Sure. But yeah, if I'm going to point out a moment here, besides the one that I already talked about where he's sitting in that chair contemplating how to murder these people, it's when he's in Italy, he's sitting down at the table there. He had just seen the girl in the village and took a liking to her. And surrounding him, he has a couple of bodyguards who are there to really guard him and protect him from whatever danger there might be. When the bodyguards find out that he is describing this girl to her own father and wanting to get with her, or at least I'm very interested in her, they freak out and say, let's get Michael out of here because this guy is going to call down the power of God in order to prevent this match from happening. But Michael says, no. Hold on, bring him out here. I want to talk to him. And he says in a very calm and respectful voice, this is my name. I am Michael Corleone. A lot of people would pay a lot of money to find out that I am me and I am here. But because I do not mean any disrespect to you or your family or your daughter, I'm volunteering this information to you right now. And I would like to call on your daughter. You can have the entirety of our visitation supervised if you want, but I would like to pursue this. What do you say? And because he was very respectful and very authoritative in this moment, the father agrees and invites him over for dinner.
And here's a little acting moment that I did pluck from the trivia. Al Pacino does speak Italian. He speaks Sicilian specifically.
Okay.
But he doesn't know enough to be able to converse this entire speech because it's a really long scene in that language, which is why he said, "You're going to translate for me."
Sure.
It was just an acting choice, but it's great. It completely sells his character because he's like, I'm an American, and he's owning his identity as an American.
And this is a very important scene, not only for him, but for the audience as well. You get to see the confidence inside of him, and you can see, again, the authoritative nature by which he takes over situations. You need that when you are a fucking mob boss.
And sitting down, he's so casual about it, too.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about this. We are used to the older, much more explosive Al Pacino.
Louder.
Loud, explosive, expressive. He is so contained, restrained, quiet, calm, which makes him fucking scary by the end of the movie.
In this movie, yes, but I would go back to Dog Day Afternoon and say the exact same thing. It's the quieter moments where I really see the acting come out of him.
But he doesn't have explosive moments in The Godfather. He is literally just chill and put together the whole time. When he is in the beginning of the movie, he knows he can't really tell Kay everything about what goes on with the family, but he's just like really chill about it. Like, anything you've heard? Yeah, it's true, but we don't really talk about that. I just want you to have a sense of who these people are. But he also, when he shows up, when he comes back to America, and it's been a year, first of all, he had an entire wedding. He had a wife. Does anybody know about this? Does anybody in the family know he was married when he went over to Sicily?
That's a really good question.
He does not talk about it. It never comes up again. And then a year later, he just decides, you know what? I had a good thing going with that Kay woman. I'm going to just propose to her on the street after not having seen her for like 2 years.
Yeah, the fact that she just said yes to that, immediately got into bed with him, and started having babies, that's just really weird to me.
Why do you need her? I don't understand the leap. That's the one part of this where I'm just like, I don't quite get this. Is it just a necessity thing? Like, I'm expected to be a man and start a family, and you know what? It's too hard to break a new one in. Like, what are you doing here?
I don't know. Maybe Michael wants to be the respectable one to ladies. But of course, by the end of the movie, he is lying to his wife's face.
Oh, and that's where the transformation is utterly complete.
Oh, yeah.
Where he says, you will not ask me about my business. You will not ask me about it. I'm not talking about it. And then he says, okay, you know what? One time. You can ask me
test you
one time about my business. And she simply asks, is it true? And he looks her dead in the eyes and says, no, it's not true. Fucking lies to her.
I feel like he is not only testing his wife, he is also testing himself in this moment because he wants to see how easy it is to lie to his wife. Because up to this point, I don't think that he has ever lied to anybody in his life.
He does strike me as a very upstanding, honest person when the movie starts. Like I said, he's a war hero. He's in a military uniform. He went to World War II when presumably the rest of the guys stayed home. I'm sure he didn't have to go. They probably all got out of going to World War II because not a one of them mentions anything about the war except that it exists.
Yeah, the timeline here is really strange because the movie starts in 1945. We're a little bit past the war at this point. I don't exactly remember what the timeline of the war in Italy was. Maybe that was part of it. Because they're Italian-American and not actually American-American. Maybe that's why. I don't know.
I'm not sure, but they definitely emphasize the point that Michael went to the war.
Yeah.
So that's Michael. That's Al Pacino. Let's talk about the other huge player in the movie, Marlon Brando. Obviously, famously won and rejected an Oscar for this movie. This is the one where he sent someone in his stead and said, no, thank you.
Yeah.
So he won for lead actor in this movie. What did you think of him?
Holy shit, is he great in this movie? Wow.
Because I think to this point, you've really only seen him in Apocalypse Now, right?
That is the only Marlon Brando movie I've ever seen, and that's not even really him.
I mean, it is, but he's just sort of mumbling his way through the movie.
I mean, that's not his movie. He's barely in it, and when he's in it, he's just, like you said, mumbling through his lines.
And in the shadows and sweating.
Yeah. But, oh boy, is he really great. He's intimidating, but he's also kind of tender at the same time. He loves his family. He loves his business, and he earns the respect of everybody else around him. At the end of the movie, when all of the different mob bosses come together and have a meeting about, let's squash this beef, let's end this war. I lost a son. He lost a son. We're even. I'm not going to retaliate here. Let's hug it out.
But also, I may be giving up vengeance against my son, Sonny, but I have another son. Michael is in Italy, and I would like to bring him home. And if something happens to him that looks like an accident, I'm gonna kill all you bastards.
Yeah, he says if a cop shoots him in the head, if he gets arrested, if he can't beat this rap, if he ends up hanging in a jail cell, I'll know it was one of you fuckers and not him.
And that's not off limits. So just remember that before we make this deal.
Yeah.
There's also that thing at the beginning of the movie where his godson comes and says, I'm trying to make it in Hollywood and I don't know what to do. I'm perfect for this role. And he starts crying. And Marlon Brando kind of slaps him around and says, be a fucking man. Why are you crying, feeling sorry about yourself? He chooses the moments where it's okay to cry. If you're feeling sorry for yourself, that is a terrible time to cry.
Yeah.
Be a man, suck it up, change your fucking life. Don't come in here crying to me. But
Yeah.
when Sonny dies, he knows that Robert Duvall has bad news for him. And he drags his sorry ass out of bed to go and get the news because he's still not well, but he knows there is a lot of activity. His wife is crying and he needs the info.
Everybody else seems to know but him.
So give it to me straight. And when he tells him Sonny was gunned down and he starts getting emotional, he kind of cries a minute and then pulls it back and he says, make a meeting. This has got to end. If this is the way it is, then I'm going to be the one to end it. They started it with me. It's going to end with me. And that is a great moment that he gets to have. And then the following scene that you mentioned, look how they massacred my boy. He breaks just a little bit.
Yeah. There's even the moment there where he's in the hospital and Michael comes to visit him. After he says, I'm basically here for you.
I'm with you, Pop.
I'm with you. There is a tear that is starting to roll down his eye. And Al Pacino himself said, that is not a fake tear. They did not go between cuts and add the little tear to his eye. Oh no, that was Marlon Brando really feeling those feelings. I cannot say enough great things about how he is portraying this character in the movie. I have no idea how it is portrayed in the book. And the fact that it was his choice to have the weird accent and having things in his cheeks and whatnot.
He put cotton in his cheeks, in his gums.
There's an entire apparatus, by the way, that he puts into his mouth. It is in, I think, the Smithsonian or something like that. I'm serious. He completely commits to this character, and I cannot do anything but respect it.
So let's talk about how his character ends. He literally survives being shot 5 fucking times. He comes back from it. He takes years to recover. He's an old man. Like, he ages significantly by the end of it. You can tell he's slower. He is not really as engaged. He's still very much recovering from his wounds.
He also just dresses like an old man would. He's not in his big suits anymore. He's not really attending meetings.
No, the only time you see him in a suit is when he goes to present Sonny's body out of a sign of respect.
Thing. Yeah.
Otherwise, he's in like cardigans and slippers most of the time. And he keeps saying, defer to Michael. Michael's in charge now. I'm not in charge. And then he's just playing with his grandson and he dies one day in the garden. That's a really strange and interesting way for a guy who led this long, complicated life to just die. He just dies.
But Betsy, we have had up to this point about 2 hours of runtime with Don Corleone being the intimidating mob boss that he was. But it's at this moment that he is the most human. He's just a grandpa playing with his grandson, running around the tomato plants, you know?
Sticking orange peels in his mouth and making him scared.
Right? It's because Marlon Brando can do both. He can be the happy-go-lucky grandpa he is at the end of the movie, and then he can also be the guy who is ordering hits out on people.
How can a guy be so scary while petting a kitty cat?
Yes.
Literally, fun fact about that, the cat wandered onto the lot and he was like, give me the cat. And it wasn't supposed to be there. And then it was purring so fucking loud they had to overdub his lines. He was just giving that cat little scratches.
That's really cute.
Meanwhile, he's saying, you want me to go and kill a guy? I got better things to do. Explain why I should.
I want to talk about this scene here because the guy comes to him because, hey, this is his daughter's wedding and people can come to him because I guess this is a tradition. People can come to him and ask him for favors. The first guy who comes to see him is the Undertaker, and he says, I've got a daughter who went off with some boys. They got her drunk. They tried to attack her. She fought back, and they beat the shit out of her. He called the police, reported it after the daughter came to him. The boys got arrested, tried and convicted, but only were given 3 years of a suspended sentence. They did not have to serve any time.
Yeah, there's no consequences at all.
Exactly. And in the eyes of the criminal justice system, that is justice. But not in the eyes of the father who looks upon his daughter not in the same way that she used to be. So at this point, he goes to the Godfather, pleads his case to say, hey, I want real justice. I should have come to you before. I didn't do it. This is my favor. And Don Corleone just lays it all out. I don't know why you didn't come to me first, but I understand. You want to be an American. You've been here for a long time. You call the cops. You trusted the American criminal justice system to give you justice. And look what that got you. You should have come to me first. But you also didn't come to me as a friend. And he kind of starts this little, catty bitch session about you never invite me over for coffee. You never do this. You never come to visit me. And if you did, maybe I would have just done this out of the goodness of my heart.
I'm only your friend when you need something. Prove to me that we're actually friends before I actually will do something for you.
Yeah.
And that's when he says, be my friend, Godfather, and kisses the ring and humbles himself a little bit.
And then he owes him a favor.
That's when Don Corleone finally says, okay, I'll do something about it.
Also, we're not in the murder business here. Your daughter is still alive. So I'm going to refuse what you were asking of me because presumably the guy is asking to have the other kids killed.
Yeah, they're all about equal and opposite reaction. They are not about going above and beyond because if you escalate, then people tend to retaliate.
Yeah, and at this point, he says, okay, well, it's basically eye for an eye here. We'll beat him up. That will be your justice. And yeah, it's just the idea of these guys not really trusting the criminal justice system of America, which, hey, even now, still not perfect.
Especially in the 1940s and especially for Italian Americans. In 2026, it's really easy for us to look at a movie about Italian Americans and think nothing of it. But when you put it into context, you have to remember that they were also a group of people that experienced a lot of racism in America.
I mean, you see it depicted in the goddamn movie. Go back to when Robert Duvall goes out to meet the movie producer and lays it all out for him, saying, I represent a very important person in New York who's friends with this singer guy who wants to be an actor guy. Please consider putting him in this movie as a favor to my friend out in New York. And that movie producer just lets him have it, like to his face, calling him all sorts of different names.
He's like, hello, I know every ethnic slur.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I'm not Italian, I'm German Irish. Let me tell you other ethnic slurs where you're a different subset.
Exactly. And it's just this overhanging thing. Anytime you're talking with anybody outside of the families, it's all about race at some point.
So you would understand why a guy would feel like the justice system did nothing for him.
Yeah.
Because he feels like, well, I'm Italian. Clearly they don't like me.
And before we leave the scene out in California, we got to mention what happens to this guy. Oh, man. Obviously, I knew that there was going to be a horse head in a bed.
You didn't know the horse head was real, though, did you, Trent?
I did not.
Yeah, I don't even remember where I heard that, but I went and fact-checked it today, and it is a real horse head.
Sure enough.
That they acquired because Francis Ford Coppola wasn't pleased with how the fake one looked, so he just went full on with it.
Hey, it's the 1970s. They're going to let me do whatever I want with this picture.
It was the early 70s. Filmmaking was kind of the Wild West again. We were seeing what we could get away with.
Oh, man.
That's also partly why he screamed kind of the way he did, because I don't think they told him that it was a real horse head.
Probably not, but I love how they kind of cut his screams together. And I would have to go back and look at it again, but it's him screaming, then it kind of pulls out and screaming again, and then it pulls out again, and him screaming again, and then it's outside, and then it's screaming again.
And that's something that you've definitely seen in other movies. I know I've seen that trick done where it's like, as we keep zooming out. It's not an echo, it's just the same moment repeated.
And for good reason, because holy shit, if I had that happen to me and I wake up in what looks like my own blood, I would be really freaked out for one thing. And then you see at the foot of the bed, there it is.
So since we're on this moment, let's talk about Robert Duvall, because one presumes that he had to organize that to happen. Or did he do it himself? Because they don't show Tom out there with anybody else. But he is the one who is trying to make this deal. Mm-hmm. He gets the bad news. And then he obviously is the one who organizes getting this horsehead to send a message.
My opinion here is that he just hired some fucking goons off the street to make it happen.
Because he doesn't strike me as the type that would do it himself.
I don't think that he's going to get his hands dirty at all.
But they never show him with another person. So
No,
I
you
have
don't
to ask
need it.
the question.
You don't need it.
But what did you think of Robert Duvall? Because he is definitely the most serious, straight-laced guy in the movie.
Yeah.
And he knows all the laws. Like when Kay shows up to the house and tries to give him a letter, will you give this to Michael when you see him?
Right.
Or if you can get in touch with him? And he puts his hands up and says, nope. By taking that, it would acknowledge I know where he is, and I don't know where he is. So keep that away from me.
Yeah, and in a lot of different movies like this, there is often a lawyer that is there to help the family out. And because he's basically an adoptive son of Don Corleone, there is a loyalty there that you would not get from anybody else. So I kind of take his position here, kind of like the Matt Damon character in The Departed, where the bad guy recruits a young kid to his side and watches him grow up and instills in him the loyalty and puts him down the path of, hey, you can be my lawyer. I'm going to put you through law school.
He grooms him and gets him completely, for lack of a better word, brainwashed, you know? He gets him on his side, and then he can use him for anything he needs. And he is the guy who's there keeping him within the bounds of legality, like where you need to make sure somebody else is doing that thing so it can't be traced back to you. What things
He's
you
a
should.
delegator.
He is a delegator. He is also like, we should be getting into this business, but not directly. Like, he's very concerned about the drug thing.
Yeah, he is aware of the pitfalls and where the landmines are, really. Because, yeah, you can get into the business, but if you have a problem with certain things, like when they have that big meeting with all the bosses, one of the guys gets up and says, I don't like narcotics either, so let's make a compromise. We're not going to deal near schools. We're not going to deal to kids. That's our red line.
Instead, more casual racism.
Well, of course, it wouldn't be a mafia movie without that. But yeah, Robert Duvall in the movie, I think he never really gets like his ire up. At no time is he like upset. The closest he gets is when he is cut out by Michael.
Because he's confused. It's not even that he's angry. He's just like, but
what did I do?
What did I do? I've been doing a good job. And it just boils down to you're great at your job, but you're not cut out for the war stuff. And maybe some of this could have been ended much sooner if you had been more prepared to deal with us battling with all these other families.
Right.
Because they don't fire him. They don't get rid of him. They're just like, you're going to go out to Vegas. That's their problem. Everyone go to Vegas. You're way on the other side of the country. Deal with the gambling shit over there where you'll be useful.
Well, that's also where they sent Fredo at one point.
And Fredo's just kind of the odd man out. He is also here.
He's kind of the fuck up brother.
Yeah, he's just the middle son. He's not in the military like Michael. He doesn't have a future in politics. He's not cut out to be in charge the way Sonny could be if he could get his act together.
He doesn't have the brain power, let's say, to really be a strategist when it comes to what the business is. So he just kind of hangs out.
And when he goes to Vegas, he's just fucking around, basically.
Literally.
Like literally fucking around.
And at the wedding at the beginning of the movie, he's drunk off his ass.
And of course, it's the late, great John Cazale. This is movie 3 of 5 that we have done on the podcast. We are over halfway through his entire filmography.
Yeah, quite the run that guy had. Who else haven't we talked about here that's really prominent?
James Caan.
James Caan. He's a guy I don't know. Have we ever covered a James Caan movie?
None immediately come to mind.
I don't think so.
I know we have seen James Caan movies. You know, the one that always comes to mind, weirdly, is Elf. Why is Elf the modern one I think of?
Okay.
And again, one of the many actors from this movie who's no longer with us.
Yeah.
He's really good in this. But he's scary in a different way because he's volatile. He is the one where you don't know what he is going to do, and that's why you should fear him.
He's a guy who is actually taking charge here in a moment where he knows his father is incapacitated, which is an admirable trait of a person, but he goes about it all wrong. Like he wants to fucking take up arms and go against all these other families without thinking of the negative consequences that will come as a result.
And it's going to take him a lot longer to get to where Don Corleone did if he is to be in charge of this family. Like there's the scene at the dinner table where he's talking business and Talia Shire says, hey, Dad never talked business in front of the kids at the table. And when her husband tries to say something, James Caan immediately says, we don't talk business at the table. But 2 seconds ago, he was.
Yeah.
It's not until somebody points out the obvious that he goes, oh, oops. And he kind of covers his mouth.
Yeah, he's trying to be, his own man to a point. But maybe he thinks, well, this is what Daddy would do, so I'm going to do the same thing. Or I'm defending the family, or I'm defending my father, or shit like that.
He's way more reactionary, and he's just hot to trot, and that's the problem.
That's his downfall,
It's his downfall. Yeah, he gets in that fucking car, goes to barrel to his sister's house to take care of this. Like, nobody fucks with my sister. I'm going to deal. I thought I had nipped this in the bud.
Yeah.
Clearly I didn't.
And he doesn't tell anybody. He doesn't say where he's going. He doesn't say why he's peeling off. He gets on the phone, he gets the news, and he drives off. And we all see what happens there, which, by the way, as long as we're talking about this scene here, I love the little billboards that are everywhere in this movie that just give it that much more authenticity from the 1940s and 50s.
Yeah, the production design is really, really good in the movie.
Yeah, to the point where, Betsy, in the scene where Don Corleone gets shot and he's buying fruit, there is a poster right behind him of a Jake LaMotta fight. You know, the guy who was depicted in Raging Bull?
Which we wouldn't have gotten as a reference if we had not watched Raging Bull a couple years ago.
Exactly.
In one of our other previous big movie names.
That's right. It all comes full circle, Betsy. Oh, man. I think everybody else here is going to be kind of minor characters. Talia Shire, you've already mentioned a couple of different times. She has some really great scenes. She's really, really manic, especially in that scene where she's breaking plates everywhere.
She also cares about the family, and she also cares about her husband, despite him being a piece of shit. Like, she says to Sonny when he shows up and she's got a black eye and a black jaw, and she's just like, no, don't do anything. Don't do anything. It was my fault. I hit him first.
Yeah, she comes from this family too. She is quite violent.
And at the end, when they kill her husband, she comes running through the house screaming and spitting on Michael like, how dare you, how dare you? And he just holds her and says, get her upstairs, take her to a doctor. He doesn't acknowledge it. He doesn't accept responsibility. He doesn't confirm it. He just lets her freak out and sends her on her way.
And she is taking this as a betrayal of her brother, not what happens with her husband. She says here, you waited until daddy died before doing anything here, and I know it was your order that did this.
Like I said, he played the fucking long game with that guy.
Yeah.
He toyed with him before he finally did something about it. And that's the two dualities here. You've got Sonny, who just did something immediately, and you've got Michael, who took his time. And yeah, everybody else in the movie, it's just this who's who of like character actors. Like Abe Vigoda is there. And I don't even know all the names of these people, but there's the guy in Vegas who gets shot at the masseuse. I'm like, oh, I've seen that guy in some movies.
Speaking of The Simpsons, that's Alex Rocco. He plays the guy who is in charge of Itchy and Scratchy.
Oh, yeah, he's got a really iconic, memorable voice.
He does, yes.
The guy who played the dad in Cat Ballou, he's the Hollywood producer in this movie, so
Yeah.
we've seen him before.
Before you move on, I just would like to say I have never seen Abe Vigoda in a real movie or real TV show outside of him just showing up on like Conan because
Just being himself.
Because Conan loved Abe Vigoda.
And he lived in New York, so he could just say, hey, you want to make a few bucks today?
Well, we had somebody cancel. Let's just bring Abe Vigoda over because he looks funny.
And so many times it would literally just be that. He'd wheel him out in a chair, Abe Vigoda sitting there old and crotchety, and then they'd close the curtains, and that was the whole bit.
Here he is.
That was it. So yeah, he actually got to do some acting. He's in The Godfather. We don't think of him as Abe Vigoda of The Godfather.
No, not at all.
We think of him as Abe Vigoda, that funny guy from Late Night with Conan O'Brien.
Fucking, we got Austin Powers and we got Conan O'Brien in this episode. Betsy, what else do we have here?
Just normal references.
Normal references.
And I mean, the only other person who you'd probably not know is in the movie is Sofia Coppola, who plays the baby at the baptism.
Yeah.
But again, I think that's pretty much all of the actors, at least the ones we know by name and the ones we've seen by reputation.
Mm-hmm.
And this is kind of a supersized episode. It is The Godfather after all, but do you have anything else you wanted to talk about?
I do, Betsy, because there's just a lot to talk about. One thing here I think dates the movie the most, or at least puts it in time, let's say. It's when Don Corleone gets shot and the news is starting to spread. They're in New York City. Michael is at a show with his girlfriend, and he gets the news about his father being shot from the evening newsstand. If you do not know, back in the day, there used to be two different newspapers that came out every single day. The morning edition and the evening edition. He got the news from the fucking newsstand.
Because no one could get a hold of him, because no one had phones. So unless you actively called to check in, there was no way to get a message to you.
Well, and no one also like reached out to find him because he did say that he was going to be like off the grid for a while. He did say that he was going to go out, but
He was at a movie.
the idea that you find out about your own father's murder, or at least attempted murder, from a goddamn newspaper is insane to me.
And fun fact, that little sequence after this where they have like the news headlines like spinning and there's articles and there's footage, that was edited by George Lucas. George
No
Lucas
shit.
put that little sequence together as a favor to Francis Ford Coppola.
Holy shit. You're blowing my mind.
He did it as a thank you for helping him get financing for American Graffiti.
There you go.
Because it hadn't come out yet. It was still something people didn't know George Lucas in those days. In 1972,
No.
American Graffiti was another year away.
Yeah. Early on, during the wedding scenes, what I would like to just point out here is the next time you watch The Godfather, notice how little the camera moves. The camera is basically just stationary, observing the crowd and having everybody look like they're at a wedding. Everybody seems so natural, and that's why I said that at the beginning here. All of the actors here, including all the extras, just look like they're having a normal day.
And that's on purpose. They basically said, act like you would at a wedding, and then he filmed it, and then he set all of the little one-on-one scenes using that as a backdrop. So they just did what they would do at a wedding. They're eating cake, they're celebrating, they're handing out gifts, they're singing songs, they're doing dances.
Yeah, I definitely wanted to point that out here because you don't really see that happen in a whole lot of movies these days where it is just a stationary shot witnessing people just having a day.
And again, contextually, early 1970s, this is a very new, modern way of doing a movie.
Yeah.
Very natural. It's not so scripted. It's just point the camera and see what happens.
I would say my favorite, as long as we're talking about how the movie is shot, my favorite little sequence here is when Michael goes to the hospital where he's going down these corridors and the camera is literally just tracking his head as he's passing in front of it. And then when he's kind of freaking out that there's no like cops on duty or any guards anywhere, it's all of these kind of like repeated shots of all these different corridors and the stairwells and everything in that hospital. I don't know. That just seemed very unique to me. But my last little point here I wanted to make. When Don Corleone and his sons go to meet the other mob boss and talk about the drug business for the first time, he lays it all out saying, okay, I want $1 million investment, or in this case, he says financing. I want $1 million of financing to start up this ambitious thing. Whatever proceeds come from this, you're going to get 30% off the top, just for providing the seed money for this endeavor. And what they get for that 30% is the influence that he has with the politicians and the judges who are going to be observing the rapid rise of drug use and drug dealing in this city. And at the end of this presentation, Don Corleone considers it, but respectfully says no. And while he says no, he says, well, congratulations on your new drug business. I hope it works out for you as long as it doesn't interfere with my business affairs. And that could have been the end of it. But of course, they take that as a slight and we know what happens from there. I just love how he congratulates him on his new drug business because it is a new endeavor that hasn't been really done with these families yet. He doesn't really want to get his hands dirty with narcotics because he knows that there's a lot of attention that gets put on drugs and not so much with, hookers and gambling, let's say.
He knows that the politicians who he has in his pocket are not going to be as friendly to drugs. If he starts getting involved, it will be a problem.
A problem that his connections would maybe, mitigate some of, but he can't promise that he can wave everything away.
Yeah, the other stuff, they probably participate in themselves because gambling is fun.
Yeah, right. And a lot of times the politicians and judges who are, supposedly on the side of law, they also participate in it too.
There's a reason their other business is in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
Way over there. A lawless land that people weren't so concerned about in the 1940s.
Yeah. And everybody kind of knows that, Vegas very much founded and propped up by the mob. But yeah, Betsy, The Godfather, we finally did it.
We did, Trent. And as I always do for Big Movie May, I'm here to emphasize the reason we selected The Godfather as one of our entries for this year's Big Movie May.
Biggest movie May.
Biggest
Betsy.
movie May. So one of the things we haven't talked about yet is that this movie was nominated for 11 Academy Awards. It was nominated for Best Picture and won. Best Actor in a Leading Role for Marlon Brando. It won. It also won Best Adapted Screenplay. But it was nominated for 3 other actors in Best Supporting Actor. James Caan, Robert Duvall, and Al Pacino all got nominated.
Wow.
Best Director, Best Costume Design, Best Sound, Best Film Editing, and Best Original Score.
The score is iconic. Anytime you hear that kind of instrumentation, you think of The Godfather.
And I did appreciate and I've mentioned it a few times in this episode, the editing in the movie. I did notice that significantly throughout the movie. Like, oh, that's an interesting cut. Oh, that's kind of a cool thing. I pointed out the one to you where it transitions from Marlon Brando's mustache to a tree.
Yes.
It's such a weird little cut, but it is a really well-known edit and transition.
I had never heard of that before you said it today, and yeah, it works.
Well, here's something else you maybe haven't heard of. So you know that Marlon Brando rejected his Best Actor Oscar win. He sent somebody else. She gave a protest speech. She got booed off the stage. It's a whole thing. But maybe what you didn't know is that Al Pacino didn't go to those Oscars because he was also doing his own form of protest. He believed because he had more screen time, he should have been nominated for Best Actor, not Best Supporting Actor. And I get why they did this, because it's Marlon Brando, and Al Pacino at this time is some nobody. Do you think he's right? Do you think that he should have been nominated for Best Actor?
Oh boy, we're really going to have this conversation.
I'm going to ask the question because I think, having watched it today, he is clearly the person that we are following. He's got the biggest arc. Yes, he is not the main focal point at the beginning, but once he shows up, he's the guy that it's all about. It goes from the squeaky clean guy at the beginning to the guy at the head of the family at the end.
I agree with everything that you were saying. I think he is the victim of this movie being almost 3 hours long. And it's Marlon Brando. And I get it. I agree with people who do not like the category manipulation that happens in basically the entire history of the Academy Awards.
Still happening today.
Still happens today. But if we're being objective here, yes, I do think Al Pacino is the lead of the movie without you really knowing it. But the question becomes, do you nominate both of them? Because I don't think you really can.
I think you can. They've done it before. There is precedent for people pushing two people as the lead. When we did Thelma and Louise,
yes, I know.
They put both of those women as Best Actress. Yes, I understand it splits the vote. Maybe you are shooting yourself in the foot because you don't guarantee anybody winning. And that's kind of what happened in the supporting category. They all lost to Joel Grey in Cabaret. Cabaret is the movie that sort of swept everything else, but it didn't win Best Picture. It won Directing, Best Actress, Best Supporting Actor. But could you have won more had you split these guys up a little differently? I don't know. It's just a question I wanted to ask.
Again, you have to look at it objectively here, and yes, Al Pacino does deserve to be in Best Actor, and I could make an argument to put Marlon Brando in Best Supporting Actor, because he is very much supporting the rest of these endeavors here. He is never really the focal point, except for the fact that all of the other actors on screen are all kind of flocking to him. But if it was my choice, I would put both of them in lead, and then neither of them would win.
Okay, I just wanted to ask that question because I was here. But I've got other facts, Trent. It's The Godfather, of course I do. On the original list of the American Film Institute 100 Years, 100 Movies, The Godfather came in number 3. When they did it 10 years later, it moved up to number 2. I think Citizen Kane topped the list both times, but it has been creeping up ever slowly. It is in the National Film Registry. It got put in 1990, which was only the 3rd year that they had the film registry, so it went in pretty fucking fast. It consistently tops or is in the top 10 list of the best movies of all time. And Trent, there were far too many for me to list here. Name a list of somebody saying greatest movies of all time, this movie is consistently in the top 10. The budget for the movie was $6 million. It made almost $251 million in the box office, making it the highest grossing film of 1972. And it was the highest grossing film of all time until what movie do you think?
Star Wars.
Close. You're in the right family, I would say. 3 years later, 1975, we covered it last year.
Oh, it's Jaws.
It's Jaws,
Okay.
yeah. So it didn't hold the title for a long time, but it did hold it for 3 years. And then, of course, this is the movie that came out number 1 on the poll that even you and I participated in.
Yep.
Our friends over at the Greatest Movie of All Time podcast did the Cinema Legacy poll, and this was the movie. I don't know how many contributors they had, but after all was said and done, this came number 1. And I wanted to ask you this question because we're here. We didn't put The Godfather on our list because you hadn't seen it, and I'd only seen it once. Do you feel like, having seen it now, you would feel good putting it on your list if you were asked to do that list again?
Oh boy. I said it early on, Betsy. I don't think I would be qualified in my own mind to put it on any kind of list like that. I would have to watch the entirety of the trilogy for one thing. And I would have to sit with this movie for at least a little bit longer than, let's say an hour and a half, 2 hours since we saw credits here. But if I were to ask myself the question, or maybe even ask you the question too, would you put it in your top 10 of greatest movies of all time?
For me personally, again, TBD, because I still don't feel like this is entirely a movie for me. I think I definitely respect it a lot more than I did before. I understand it. I'm going to consume a lot more media about it now that we've watched it. And then come back to me in a few months, maybe. Maybe in a few months. Well, not in a few months, because we don't get to rewatch this movie before the end of the year. But maybe next year, we should just put a plan in place to watch it again and then see how we feel about it in a year or before the next time they do another round of that poll.
Right. Also, we have our own award show and we'll see how I'm feeling about it by the end of the year, because I can actually nominate it for my favorite new movie of the year.
Yeah. There's a lot to marinate in.
Yeah. But to answer the question that I just asked, would I put this in my top 10? Not right now. I'm not going to say no, I'm never going to put it in there. Again, I need to see more of it. I need to ruminate on it more. I fully respect the hell out of the filmmaker here. And really, Betsy, I pointed this out to you before, and this is something that I knew about the movie beforehand. Francis Ford Coppola was very, very adamant to put Mario Puzo's The Godfather up in the title, because this is not his work. Because yes, he was the director of the movie, and oftentimes they say, hey, it's a film by this director. He went out of his way to say, no, I didn't write this thing. It's Mario Puzo's masterpiece that I'm just filming.
He did the same thing when he did Dracula. It's not simply called Dracula. It's called Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Right. Which again, it is actually just him respecting the artist who created the source material. I want more filmmakers to do that.
Credit where credit is due. And he cared enough to get Mario Puzo to write the screenplay with him.
With him, yeah.
So he had a say.
For a guy that was famously controlling of his movie sets, to have Mario Puzo's name all over this thing really says something about how much he respected the source material.
Absolutely. So with that, our supersized episode must come to an end, because people could, and I'm sure have, done like entire series about The Godfather. Hours and hours and hours talking about this movie. We are not the people to offer you that. Go seek that out elsewhere if you would like to. There are more behind the scenes things on IMDb than I could even muster the energy to read through today, because this movie is just too big for our little podcast.
But Betsy, for a movie number 400, I think it is quite fitting.
What else could it have been, Trent? What else could it have been?
We've only been holding on to it for 5 years now. And I said in our 5-year anniversary special that Biggest Movie May is gonna be really big. And here you go. That's just the taste, guys. We got more coming up.
This is only the beginning. But first, we would love to hear your thoughts on The Godfather. Is this your number one movie of all time? If it isn't, tell us why it isn't. If it is, tell us why it is. Because you need to sway our votes. You need to convince me that this is worthy of being at the top of the mountain. Email those thoughts, neverseenitpod@gmail.com. We're skipping any emails today because this episode is far too long as it is already. but we do want to hear from you. That email again, neverseenapod@gmail.com. You can also send us a message on any of our social media platforms. We're on Instagram, we're on Twitter, we're on Facebook, Blue Sky. You can comment on the episode on YouTube, on TikTok. We post some clips. Any of those places, if you want to send us a message, we're going to see them.
And that message applies to The Godfather or any of the other 400 movies that we have covered on this show.
If you like this episode, you can also go write us a review, rate us 5 stars, anything like that to help us get in front of more people. We would really, really appreciate it.
And I'm really hoping that this episode is going to be in front of a whole lot more people than what it normally is. So yeah, that'll really help us out. Go to iTunes and go to Spotify, rate us 5 stars. Make sure you've actually listened to some of the episodes first, which I think it actually forces you to do so before you can rate something. We would very much appreciate you going and doing that. It would help us out a whole lot.
But you know what? If this is your first time listening because we are talking about The Godfather, welcome. Thank you. We appreciate you taking 2 hours or however long we've talked to get to this point of the episode. And if you are interested in more content from us, you can, of course, go to patreon.com/neverseenitpod, where we do 4 more weekly shows about all kinds of topics. It's just $5 a month. If you want to check it out, we'd really appreciate the support. But with that, we are going to call it on The Godfather. But Big Movie May, Biggest Movie May, is just getting started. We have 4 more big movies for the month of May. Trent, what will we be talking about next week?
Well, Betsy, I'm glad you asked, because next week we're going to be covering a big movie that neither of us have ever seen. Coming all the way from the year 2000, we're covering Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
Another one that I am shocked at this point I haven't already watched, but am very excited to finally check off the list. So come back next week for that one. Until then, we thank you for listening. My name is Betsy.
And my name is Trent.
And we will see you next week.